I still find it hard to believe that you've been designing kitchens for 40 years, but that's what it says in my notes. So.
It's true. Actually, I did my first kitchen, Gothic kitchen, mad Gothic crazy kitchen in 1976, so it really is 40 years. Actually, I made my first kitchen 50 years ago when I was 14, or 15, for my mum. I made it out of bits of pine and copied some details from Brighton Pavilion, but she kind of needed it, and she was obviously really supportive. But my dad was a kind of frustrated carpenter. He was a doctor, but I think one of the things about being a doctor is you don't get a chance to be very creative, and so he had 4 sons, and we've all learnt to be woodworkers. And it started with him when he came back from the Burma campaigns in the war. He bought some carpets with him, and they're all packed in pine packing cases. And after the war, there was no wood; you just couldn't get any.
Right.
And my parents bought a bomb-damaged house in Kensington, and he built his first kitchen out of those packing cases.
I just love these stories. I really do.
They're mad. I mean, it's like, and it was a tiny little kitchen. A quarter of it was taken up by a fridge, which walked across the room. I wrote about this in my blog. It was called something like "Machines with Legs." That's right. And I suddenly realised how mad that period of technology was. And my dad was doctor to somebody who was a chef at the Dorchester, and he had all this far too many children too quickly, and so he was keen for a big fridge, and you couldn't buy a British fridge thing, which was basically smaller than a sort of an underkind of fridge today, except for these commercial refrigerators you could buy. So we bought this commercial Frigidaire, and it literally took up a quarter of the kitchen space, but it had this wonderful sort of character by which in the evenings he would come back from his rounds, and the kitchen would be half the size because the fridge would be in the middle, and he'd get together, take his jacket off, reveal his braces, and we'd all push this fridge back against the wall, you know. So, but that's not really why I became a kitchen designer. I mean, that's a slightly different story. But it's my aunt was this food writer.
Elizabeth David,
yeah,
I believe.
Elizabeth David, yeah, who, you know, again was an accident really. I mean, she was. They had terrible food in their Edwardian household. The children weren't allowed ever in the kitchen, and she went to do She did a short period at Sorbonne in Paris, and stayed with a Normandy family who were incredible cooks, and was exposed to good food for the first time. And then she started writing about it, kind of by accident, really, after the war. And that infused our household with an interest in food that I think my parents probably wouldn't have had if it wasn't for her. And then I went to visit her when I was a small child, and I was fascinated by this slightly terrifying bohemian woman, very beautiful, quite severe in a way, but funny and clever. And this incredible, extraordinary kitchen she had. It really was full of weird things, like she had all these things called heat spreaders, which you can't even buy today, which looked a bit like torture racks. And as a small child, I was just staring at all this stuff, thinking, what the hell's going on? And I think that kind of laid a landscape that started me off. And then finally, she had a stroke, and my dad was her doctor, and she lost her sense of taste. Nobody knew about it. The public were never told. My dad said, why didn't you open up a shop? So she opened up this shop selling kitchen equipment.
Gosh.
And actually, I think she had almost as much impact on kitchen equipment as she did on our food habits. And I think, and my favourite destination when I came home from boarding school at the end of, beginning of holidays, was always to go and see her in her shop. So I think, as I've said in my little speech, I was a bit of a kitchen designer, sort of unstoppable, really. And I didn't set out